Yeah, so I'm taking over as Honorary Colonel of the Gibraltar Regiment from Colonel Francis Brancato, who's been serving the regiment for a long time, and I hope will continue to do so because I can't do this role without his help and advice. And I was approached by the Regimental Council and by the previous governor and asked if I'd be prepared to take on the role, and I bit their arm off because, as you say, I've got deep roots in Gibraltar. I grew up here in the 1970s, lived at Bruce's Farm, which I know makes everyone in Gibraltar smile when I say that, and then came back in the 90s and served here for 2 years with the Green Jackets, so the last residential infantry battalion that we had here. Did the last ceremony of the Keys, did Fortress Fantasia, if anyone remembers that, and then have spent a lot of time coming back and forth because I have so many friends here. And then as my first four-star role, commanding strategic command, Gibraltar came under my purview. So it was an opportunity to come out and spend a lot of time trying to make sure that that the military capabilities we had here were fit for the challenges that we're facing. So it's a homecoming for me, and it's a genuine honour, but also a personal pleasure to be able to maintain the links with Gibraltar, and in particular with the Gibraltar Regiment.
Now, these are difficult times for the whole world. You were very recently forming part of those plans for defence for Gibraltar. Tell us, in the current situation the world finds itself in, for example, we saw in the news in the UK a few days ago that the Prime Minister was preparing for an attack from Russia. What sort of defensive capabilities Gibraltar has to find itself in that sort of situation?
Yeah, I mean, as you say, we live in a very different world, and the trends that were driving this change were all present, but they've been accelerated, particularly in the last 100 days, by the decisions that President Trump has taken, as well as by the actions of Russia, of China, of Iran. And the world that we've all grown up in, a world that was governed by the rule of law, by rules, by norms, which has been an incredibly peaceful and prosperous period, has fundamentally changed. You know, we're experiencing a revolution in the world order, and the world now is not driven so much by the rule of law as it is by power, by hard power. And the underpinnings of hard power are military capability. You can't prevent wars, you can't deter wars, which is what we should be about, because no one wants to fight a war unless you are strong enough for your opponent, your enemy, to work out that it's not worth paying the price for what they're trying to achieve. And Gibraltar forms an absolute cornerstone in the regions, in the UK's, in NATO's capabilities, and in the defence of Europe, because of its geographic position, but also because of the capabilities that we've always used here in Gibraltar. You know, there's a reason that wherever you go in Gibraltar, its military history sort of almost infused, or comes out of the rock itself, because it's such an important strategic location. And the Gibraltar Regiment will have to, it exists to play its part in that, in the defence of Gibraltar as a strategic asset. And so I think you're going to see in the UK, a strategic defence review is going to announce the sort of defence forces that we're going to need in the future. You're seeing all of that going on in Europe as well, so very, very significant increases in defence spending being announced. Without hard power and without the ability to protect the assets that we have here on Gibraltar and protect the people of Gibraltar, then we'd be in trouble. That's the role of the Gibraltar Regiment.
How prepared are we here?
Well, the regiment itself is extremely professional. You know, everything that I've seen in the last few days, spending time with them, their fighting spirit, their esprit de corps, they're very fit, they're very well turned out, but they've also got a proven track record. You know, I have served with members of the Gibraltar Regiment in Kosovo, in Iraq, in Afghanistan, in Estonia. You know, they have played their part in the British Army's order of battle. So I don't have any doubt about their capabilities. They need to be stronger. You know, we need to get the Gibraltar Regiment up to full strength. And personally, I'd like to see more Gibraltarians serving inside the Gibraltar Regiment in their own regiment. So getting Gibraltarian sons and daughters to come and join has got to be an important step for the future. And the capabilities that we have on the Rock, whether it's the naval assets, whether it's the airfield, or whether it's the ability to conduct surveillance from the top of the Rock, all of these are critical contributions to our collective defence as part of NATO.
Well, turning back to your ceremonial role in the Royal Gibraltar Regiment, what can we expect from your visit over the next couple of days?
Well, I'm going to do a lot of listening and learning and trying to work out how together we can overcome some of the obstacles in the way of the Gibraltar Regiment getting up to full strength. I'll be talking, I hope, with the Chief Minister about some of those. We've spoken a lot of times in the past about this when I was in different roles. But also I hope to spend some time with the families as well. And then I will do my very best to make sure that I'm able to come out here sufficiently frequently so I can serve the regiment in the role that they've asked me to take on, and also visit them when they're training and perhaps on operations as well. But it's I enjoyed myself enormously last night in the Almeida Gardens, meeting the soldiers, and I can tell you that they have no filters, and I love that about soldiers.